So you got Bass Reeves, good old Bass Reeves. So Bass Reeves, he's a black man. He was an ex-slave. He's got that distinguished mustache. That's a moustache. That's not just a mustache, that's a moustache. Bass Reeves was a black U.S. Marshal in the 1800s. In the late 1800s, in the Wild Wild West, and he got 3,000 arrests. So, Black Badge, I want to tell you about when the Black Badge got Tom's story. So, he already got Robert Dozer, right? Robert Dozer got by the Black Badge. Robert Dozer shot first, but the Black Badge, he shot last. So, Robert Dozier got right through the neck. Bass Reeves comes up right out of the swamp with his Colt 45 Peacemaker pointed straight at Robert Dozier, and then bang, bang, no more Robert Dozier. Bass Reeves may be the greatest goddamn lawman on the face of the planet. 3,000 arrests, that's 94 arrests per minute. 3,000 arrests, is that even possible? That's unfathomable. It's actually 94 arrests per year. So Bass Reeves, he's got a pocket full of warrants coming out of Fort Smith. Bass Reeves, he arrests criminals by the wagon load. That's the kind of cowboy that Bass Reeves is. The Black Badge, he lassos 10 to 20. He lassos dozens of cowboys at a time. So Judge Isaac Parker didn't know what he was in store for when he gave Black Reeves the Black Badge. Black Reeves, his badge, to make him the Black Badge. The U.S. Marshal, a black man, he goes into Oklahoma with the untamed Indian. He overthrows his oppressor, right, George Mathrat. He's an ex-slave, so there's the Civil War, and I think he fought for the Confederates, might even fought against the Union. So he was a good, dutiful slave, but then he's going to run away, runs out into Indian territory, and then eventually, because he lived with the Creek and the Seminole, he learned their language. And since he was able to learn their language, that's why Judge Isaac Parker is going to give Bass Reeves a badge. U.S. Marshal, Bass Reeves, he could speak to the chair, he could speak to the Seminole, he could speak to the Creek. That's all she wrote for the bad guys. Bad boys, huh? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? So Black Badge, he's gonna die at 71 years of age. He's like a Simon Gertie. Black Badge is a major part of American history. Fought basically a nearly impossible fight. Not only being, black, but being black in the Oklahoma territory would have been, hard enough by itself. So not only was he black and had to deal with the racist bullshit, but he was also a lawman. And maybe in some respects, that would give him that would be surely a shock, right? So he's got the surprise factor. Get at it. What? Where'd you get that badge at? So not only is Bass Reeves going to arrest 3,000 people, 3,000 felons, and he's going to kill 14 felons, 13 of which were justified, probably. For 32 years, Bass Reeves is a lawman. For 32 years, he arrests 3,000 felons, and he never got a single scratch on him from his work. He never got injured. Never got injured. And then Bass Reeves is going to die at 71 years of age, just like Simon Gertie. Just like Simon Gertie. So, Bass Reeves, he's going to die of Bright's disease. He's going to be an 1870, 1880 black man with a badge running around in the Wild West, arresting motherfuckers. And he dies at 71 of Bright's disease, a.k.a. nephritis, which some of my Grip Server ancestors caught. So he lived to be an old man, 71 years of age, and he died of, nephritis. So that's like pancreas or something. The Black Badge, what a life, what a life. 71, 7 decades. Bass Reeves approached 3 murderous Brunter brothers, handed them a warrant for their arrest. The 3 outlaws laughed, and they read the warrant. And when they were reading the warrant, that's the split second Bass Reeves needed to draw his gun, killed 2 of them, and then disarmed and arrested the 3rd. So he got the Brunter brothers, right? He got Robert Dozier. This is about how he got Tom's story. There was another time Bass Reeves, there's 2 potential assassins. They said, Bass Reeves, get off your horse. The Black Badge, he gets off his horse. The Black Badge asked them for one last request. He says that he's illiterate and he can't read what this letter that his wife had wrote to him. And he asked them if they would read it to him. And so when they would take the piece of paper from Bass Reeves' hand, that was the split second he needed to do some June Keat do. Bass Reeves is basically the Bruce Lee of the 1870s Wild Wild West. So the second outlaw is going to drop his gun in surprise, right? Hey, can you just read this letter from... I can't read. Oh, sure, no problem. Aha. Now, who's got the drop on who? So, yeah, heck yeah. Hell yeah. Bass Reeves, as far as cops go, as far as crime fighters go, I like Willis Russell, too. So that's 2 U.S. Marshals. These U.S. Marshals, I love these U.S. Marshals. Black Badge gave wicked criminals nightmares. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? In 1882, Bass Reeves arrested Belle Starr for horse theft. Some accounts say that she turned herself in when she heard that the legendary Bass Reeves was looking for her. What? Bass Reeves? Oh, shit. The Black Badge? Robert Dozier, he is a murderer, cattle, horse thief. He eluded Bass Reeves for several years before being tracked down and killed after refusing to surrender. He also refused to surrender. We also shot at Bass Reeves, too. But it took several years. And then Tom's story, it took 5 years for Bass Reeves to track outlaw Tom's story between 1884 and 1889. And he finally killed him in a gunfight. So Tom's story, this is another Robert Dozier. Tom's story is a Robert Dozier. This is another horse thief and murderer, a lowlife, sadistic, criminal fuck. In 1889, after Reeves was assigned to Paris, Texas, he went after the Tom Story gang for their long-term horse theft operation. The Black Badge waited along the route Tom Story used and surprised him with an arrest warrant. Tom Story panicked, drew his gun, but Reeves drew and shot him dead before Tom Story could fire. And then Tom Story's gang disbanded, and they were never heard from again. This is Paris, Texas, 1889. Right, he's on the route, Tom Story, and then Tom Story fucked up, panicked, drew his gun. Now it's justified. And it said that Tom Story drew first. So just like Robert Dozier drew first. Tom Story drew first. There's another guy, too. So there you go. It's not a ton of information about Tom's story, but essentially Tom's story is this criminal in Paris, Texas. Bass Reeves goes to Paris, Texas. The Black Badge is waiting along the route that Tom's story uses. surprises him. Boom! Here's an arrest warrant. Tom Story panics, pulls his gun. Bass Reeves pulls his gun first. His Colt 45 peacemakers probably shot them both, right? Boom, 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 boom. And was able to shoot and kill Tom Story before Tom Story was able to shoot and kill him. So Tom Story pulled on Bass Reeves first. That's all she wrote. The good lawman has to pull second. Never shoot in the back. Never pull first. Never shoot first. Unless they're arresting a dangerous criminal. But if it's just regular operations, day-to-day standard operating procedure, you got to be pulled upon. Just pull it, then there's a threat of death. U.S. soldiers overseas, you can't just shoot at anybody unless you're being fired upon. There's rules of engagement. There's rules of engagement. We don't need cops, we need crime fighters who respect the rules of engagement. If a criminal pulls, that's how you know the difference between the lawman and the criminal, the good and the bad. The criminal pulls first. The criminal goes for the gun first, shoots first. That's also the whole point of a duel, is that you don't want to be the person to pull first, because that means you want to murder. The person that waits for the other one to pull and then pulls faster than them is a person who is just defending themselves. So the Black Badge gave criminals nightmares, just like Mel Gibson in Braveheart with the noble lords. The noble, oh yeah, so noble. Lords, there's only one Lord, Jesus Christ, the noble lords. Belle Star, she turned herself in at Fort Smith. He was there with, Fort Smith with a pocket full of warrants. Fort Smith, the house of justice. Bass Reeves never got injured, but his hat and his gun belt was shot off. He used pistols and rifles. He's ambidextrous. He could use both of his hands. Pistols, rifles, shotguns, you name it. Bass Reeves had 10 kids, so he's going to have a long, long legacy. The Black Badge, Bass Reeves, his favorite two guns was the Colt 45 pistols. He liked two Colt 45 pistols, the Peacemakers. The ones, those old guns that you could spin, and then throw it in there. And then he would lean them with butts leaning forward because he could draw quicker, apparently. Is that right? Is that physics correct? So yeah, people want to talk about the Bible and Abraham, Samson, Job. Job, that rich motherfucker who owned slaves. Fuck Samson. Love Hampton. Bass Reeves is another Fred Hampton. Bass Reeves is a badass. You need your Fred Hamptons, you need your Bass Reeves, and you need a balance of both. You need an amalgamate. You need a synthesis. You need just like anything, you need a balance. But a Black Badge enforcing the law in the 1870s, 1880s. Uh-oh.